there, welcome back to my channel, Hasty Books. I'm Camila, and today, better late than never, I thought I would wrap up my September reads. So I was earlier in my first take, I actually said we're halfway to October. This is such a lie. We are literally the 25th of October as I'm filming this. This is embarrassing. We are like 6 days away from Halloween. And November starting. So I've had a lot going on. I'm trying to take a wee step back from booktube as well, which is difficult because I really enjoy it and I love reading and I love to discuss the books I've read. But I feel like I'm developing a bit of a delay in reviewing books and posting videos. I did post my entire summer kind of reviews in one go because I hadn't been doing it along the summer. But I actually really enjoyed that video. I was tier ranking my summer reads, and I think the feedback I got is that people enjoyed it, those who watched it. So thank you for that. I won't be tier ranking this time, apologies, and I do not have a glass of wine either, but hopefully it'll still be fun. So in September, I read 8 books and DNF 2 books. So technically my list had 10, but the last 2, let's start with those though. Let's just mention the ones that I swiftly moved on from. So the first one was Old God's Time by Sebastian Barry. This was a book that was longlisted for the Booker Prize this year. I easily found a copy at my library, so I picked it up, and that just didn't do it for me. I didn't really mind the writing, but what was being said I didn't find very nice. There's a lot of bowel movements, a lot of just descriptions of stuff. I was like, why am I reading this? This is so weird. I was interested in the concept of the book, but I just didn't want to put myself through reading that book. I gave up about a quarter in, and just put a line through that. And then the second book, unfortunate for male Irish authors this month, but the second book was by John Banville, and it was The Sea. And I was doing that as a buddy read with Dia from Novel Idea, and we both got to a point where we're like, no, we don't want to read this, and we both didn't really enjoy it, and it was a bit creepy. For me, it's literally, I got to a point, it was a bit creepy, but then we got to a point where he walks in on his daughter, the main character of the story, walks in on his daughter in the shower or something, and then starts describing her body, and I was like, I'm not here for this. So closed that book, and swiftly it went on the pile of charity shop discards. And Dia was the same, she also DNF'd it. We will be reading a book together for Nonfiction November, so I'm very excited about that. My Nonfiction November TBR is coming out soon, so check that out. To make up for these 2 Irish authors, I was like, this is not for me. I went back to one that I enjoyed before, Claire Keegan. So I read a very kind of short sort of novella, So Late in the Day, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I don't think the concept of it was enjoyable, a bit like Small Things Like These. I really enjoyed that last year. That was it shortlisted? Or was it only longlisted for the Booker last year? I don't remember. But I have enjoyed it. To me, it was short, packed a punch. I thought it was good. Not like a 5-star for me, but I enjoyed it. This to me was very similar, packed a punch, short, really enjoyed it. It's really funny because we mostly follow the male character, and I feel like he's very unreliable. And then suddenly I was like, wait, I'm not rooting for him. And I just enjoyed that turn that it took. So a big recommend from me, and it's really short, so it will take you no time at all. I also picked up Learn by Heart by Emma Donoghue, who is, I believe, Canadian-Irish. And I also enjoyed that. I thought it was very lyrical, very beautiful, and full of longing. I think it's inspired by Gentleman Jack. And basically it's like a queer love story about these 2 girls who are in like I want to say it's like a girls' school. I did find that some of the details sometimes was it didn't feel like it mattered, and so to me like something got lost, and I don't think it was that memorable, but I think I enjoyed being in the story when I was in it. I picked up another book that was longlisted for the Booker. It was The House of Doors by Twan, and I actually really enjoyed that. I reviewed it. I think I also reviewed All God's Time, actually. Well, what I did read of it. In my reaction to the shortlist of the Booker Prize, I was actually quite sad it wasn't shortlisted because I thought it was really good. I think if you're reading a little bit about it and it interests you, I would say I highly recommend diving in, because to me it was, there was so many layers to this book, so many stories, and yeah, it was really interesting. Again, there's like a queer story. I don't want to say it's a love story, but there was definitely like a storyline of one of the main male characters going through that, and he kind of gets a story by his friend's wife about a potential affair she was having, and she was also witness to a murder trial. And I just really enjoyed what it was trying to say, and yeah, I thought it was beautifully done. Next, I picked up a short audiobook, An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good by Ellen Tursten, and I'd heard it was a short book and there was like some weird stuff happening, like this elderly lady is up to no good. I didn't expect just how intense the no good bit was. And basically they're a series of short stories all around this old lady where she does that, the one where this happens. And I just thought it was, I thought it was good. I thought it was entertaining. Would I pick up the second one? Maybe. I think the last story kind of left me wanting to know what happens next. But I don't say that that's one that would be like getting out of my way to read what's next. I also read Days at the Morisaki Bookshop by Satoshi Yagisawa, and this was an arc that I got actually through NetGalley. I love a book about a bookshop. What can I say? Like most of us do, I think. A book about a book, a book about a reader, a book about a bookshop owner, anything. We love it. And this was in the same vein. Basically, this woman, I think she realizes her boyfriend has another girlfriend. I don't know. I don't remember if she loses her job or if she quits because of the heartbreak and stuff. Anyway, she ends up moving in with her uncle, who owns sort of the family bookshop, basically. He's the one working there, so she goes there. She's a bit, heavily depressed actually, but she gets out of it shortly with her relationship with him, and getting involved with the bookshop and stuff like that. And that was really interesting. Not very memorable, I have to say. So if you're looking for, especially there's so many in the vein of Japanese books about bookshops, that's not one that I would go out of my way to get. I think other books should be potentially higher on your list to pick up than this one, especially because this book kind of loses itself in the second half, or like the last third. And I hear this is the first one in the series. It's definitely not made me want to pick up whatever's next, but maybe I will one day, and maybe it kind of keeps me going. But for now, I just thought it was all right, but again, nothing to write home about. Next, let's go with the one physical book that I read. So I read a bunch. Obviously, most of them were ebooks and audiobooks, but I read the paper copy of this. It's really funny because I was thinking, this is one on my list to read, from a new to me country. So this is from Greenland, and it's been on my list this year. So when I was doing I was going through all my goals for my September check-in, the last check-in of the year video, which you can go check out if you want to see how badly all my goals are going. And I was like, oh yeah, this was on my list. I really should pick it up. And I literally picked it out of the library, and I started reading it, and I read like half of it right there. And I was like, oh, okay. So I read the second half the next day, and then that was it. I had read it. Sometimes it's so simple, isn't it? So in this book, we follow 5 characters who are, I want to say, early 20s, living in Nuuk in Greenland, the capital of Greenland. And basically it's a very modern book. I think this was written like early 2010s, maybe 2012, 13, something like that. I think that's when it came out. So I think it's not quite like as modern, so it definitely doesn't feel Gen Z, but it's definitely like young people growing up in like modern 21st century world. And you kind of get a little bit of the more traditional bits about Greenland in what they talk about in like the expectations and the societal kind of pressures that they experience. And what I didn't realize, and it's probably a bit of a spoiler, I guess, but I think all the characters in this are queer, and obviously some kind of more out than others. And I enjoyed to see all the different aspects of that, especially, like I said, with the impact of the Greenlandic kind of traditional cultures and expectations set on them. So one of them just cannot, and is really struggling with it. So I thought this was a really wonderful window into that life. I think this was translated, I want to say, from the Greenlandic. Yes, so it was translated by Hannah Halliger. Obviously, I don't know Greenlandic and I don't know what it reads like, but this felt to me sometimes very direct. Like, it reminded me a little bit of the Japanese style of writing, which can be very direct. There's a lot less showing than telling. So there's a lot of like, I did that, I was feeling this, you know, it's a lot more straightforward, which made it quite easy to read in that sense. But there are things that I couldn't quite picture because I don't think it was described well enough. But yeah, I'm glad that I've experienced and read this book. Next, I read Her Majesty's Coven by Juno Dawson. I have mixed feelings about this book. So I got a NetGalley audio arc. So, and I mean, it came out last year, so I've had it for far too long. It took me too long to get into this book. So basically, the first quarter, I re-listened to like 4 times. And that's because there are a lot of characters at the beginning. And when you're listening to audio books, sometimes it's difficult when it goes back and forth between so many characters. It's difficult because you can't go back to see who did what, who was who. So I was like, who are these people? And 2 of the characters had very similar nicknames, I want to say. So yeah, I was really struggling to follow what was going on at the beginning. But I persevered, you know, got through that bit, and finally kind of settled into the story. And it's basically a coven of witches who is in the UK, and they're preparing for the arrival of, like, I guess, the, you know, Leviathan, like this terrible, like, child or whatever. And they believe that it's this one child that's having issues with their powers. And turns out, and I don't think it's a spoiler, but turns out that child is trans, and it kind of falls into very relevant politics, you know? And I like that the antagonist character wasn't just like a black and white, like, I hate trans people. It was very much like, she was trying to reason, like, she was like, is everyone not understanding what it is, like, what I'm trying to say? And I like that kind of portrayal, because it just wasn't her trying to be a villain. But I don't understand still the logic of it. But anyway, I did enjoy, like, the acceptance on the other side of the characters and stuff like that. One of my main gripes with this book, though, is that it kind of portrayed itself as a very feminist book, but then what we got was like a lot of women fighting, which I like women supporting women, you know, and there's a bit of that. But in general, like, the main plot of the story is like basically 2 conflicting covens fighting. I did think it was alright. Like, by the end, I was kind of in the story. Like, the main character, I forget her name, like, she's lost her husband, and her I think her sister is the reason why, and she's trying to grieve and she's trying to move on at the same time, and she's helping the trans girl as well. And I really enjoyed her character, but I just didn't know what else that I was rooting for here. And yeah, maybe I would pick up the next one, but I just don't feel like it would be a priority. So that tells you about kind of how I felt about it. And finally, the last book that I read in September was the Bookbinder of Jericho by Pip Williams, and I love that one. I mean, it's just no mixed feelings here. Pip Williams wrote the Dictionary of Lost Words, which I think I read in 2020 or 2021, I don't remember, but it was my favorite book of the year that I read it. And basically, the Bookbinder of Jericho is extremely similar. We start and we're following Peggy. She's a bindery girl at the bindery, so, you know, the Bookbinder of Jericho, and it's part of like Oxford basically. So they bind them books, they bind exams for university and all stuff like that. And then quickly I realized that it was set at just as the kickoff of the First World War basically, and well, that's when it starts. It goes through the whole thing actually, and I thought that was really interesting because I was like, oh, we go through the same period in the Dictionary of Lost Words. And then she mentioned the name of the characters from the last books, and I was like, I thought that was really cool. I remember like pausing and like going back and be like, wait, what? So it's a Pip Williams, you know, literary universe. I love it. So because the bindery and obviously the the dictionary people, you know, for the Oxford English Dictionary people, all kind of around the same spot, you know, they're all working sort of together. So that's where we get the link. And the main character in the book Binder of Jericho, Peggy, she gets sort of inspired actually by Esme's dictionary with woman words, you know, and especially I think at a time in the First World War where women got a lot of opportunities because the men were away at war, and she takes that opportunity and she start realizing she wants more, and she studies really hard, and it doesn't feel like she was just smarter than everyone. It feels like she has obviously a keen mind, but she works really hard, and we really see that through the book. And she also becomes closer with a Belgian soldier who was getting better at the hospital in Oxford, and they also get a bunch of Belgian refugees. And there's you know, the tension of when people get refugees, obviously, but also like the beauty of learning about them, and then there's the trauma that these refugees have. And I don't know, I feel like I learned a lot about what obviously Belgium went through during the war, but there's episodes as well. We get letters from their aunt who's working as a nurse in the camps on mainland Europe. And yeah, I just, again, clearly Pippa Williams did so much research. I do hope that her next book maybe branches out of First World War in Oxford. I'm really enjoying it, and I won't complain. I will read it if she writes it again. But I just feel like it's kind of rehashing some of the same content, even though it wasn't. But I just felt like it was the same kind of, yeah, world. I could probably do a whole book review actually about this, just a video for that. But well, maybe actually I will review both the Dictionary of Oxford and the book Binder of Jericho, similarities and differences, and which one potentially you should pick up depending on what you enjoy. But frankly, I recommend both. They were both great. And yeah, I loved it. I gave it a 5. I gave a 5 to Dictionary of Lost Words, so I had to give a 5 to this one, obviously. So that's it. So this is a quick overview of the 10 books, well, 8 books that I read, 2 attempted reads / DNFs. In September. I thought it was a kind of a good month. I did feel a little bit sometimes out of my depths. Like I was just like, oh, I just need a little something. So that's why I think I pick up a lot of shorter audio books, because I just needed that sometimes. But yeah, generally I think there were some really good books, and I'm really glad with the books that I did read and did finish. And I'm glad that I DNF'd the ones that I did. But yeah, and I've been reading some cracker books as well in October, and I look forward to reviewing those for you. So come back soon for my November TBR, for my wrapping up of October, and you know, everything else that I've read. But yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching, and hey, see you back. Bye.